Hello and welcome to Talk to Stu with me, Stuart Magoo. And in this session we are going to be looking at the recently passed Universal Credit Bill, or as it was previously known, the Universal Credit and PIP Bill. This has just passed its third reading on the 10th of July through the Houses of Parliament. What a great place that is. And there's been quite a few changes that are coming in on the back of that, so I just wanted to go through a few of those things and explain them to you. There's quite a lot to get through. I'm going to try and make it as brief as I possibly can, but if you know me well, you know my brief is extremely long. So yeah, if that's not for you, probably go somewhere else. Anyway, enough waffle. Let's get on with the show. Okay, so for people who aren't aware, there's been a few changes going on in my life. I recently got married to the very lovely Becky, who many of you, if you're long-time viewers of the channel, you will know Becky and you will have seen her on different episodes, and indeed I'll link to our recent interview with Edward and Sarah Brown, a couple of lovely people who also do similar things in terms of trying to help people with benefits, and we met up with them for a chin wag, and yeah, it was great. So we'll link through to them at the end in that video, and you'll get to see Becky there as well. I will post a video with some updates on the wedding, maybe some photos, things like that for those who are interested, but obviously I'll just keep it small, so it's just for my main viewers. But in the meantime, I have been making a few changes around this space. As you can see, it's looking a bit untidy behind me, but it's a work in progress. Okay, so the Benefits and Work website is where I go for all of my news. Well, not all of it, but certainly it's my first point of call, and I've signed up to the email as well, so if you haven't done that, I suggest you do. That means you don't have to keep checking the website. You just, once a week, the email comes through with all the news stories of that week, which is really quite useful and allows you to compartmentalise reading about these things, because it's not good for the mental health. That's important. But also websites such as Child Poverty Action Group, Disability News Service, Disability Rights UK, Disabled People Against Cuts. These are all really good sites to look at for information, and for information that's pretty accurate, I have to say. These people tend to be doing good work in terms of making sure that what they're putting across to you is accurate and doesn't have any of the conjecture that goes on in the mainstream media. So that itself can cause a lot of mental health problems. So always use Benefits and Work for this sort of thing. So I highly recommend it. So the latest that has come through on the UC and PIP bill is that it has gone through its third reading. So part of that is that the title has been changed, so it's not the Universal Credit and PIP bill, it is the Universal Credit Bill. And obviously most of you viewing this, as well as most readers of this, will be aware that there were very dramatic scenes last week, or the week before, during the second reading, which went on for a few days, where there was a lot of back and forth between different ministers over certain aspects of the bill, primarily around the PIP 4-point rule, and a number of concessions had to be made in order for the bill to get passed. That obviously is no bad thing, in that we saw that the 4-point rule for PIP has been pretty much completely abandoned. When I say pretty much, that doesn't mean it hasn't been abandoned at this stage. It has been abandoned at this stage, but there could be changes to that, to PIP in the future as part of the TIMS review, and we don't know what that's going to look like yet. The TIMS review will be happening or published next autumn, and I'll talk more on that in a bit. But as it stands, the 4-point rule is in the bin. It was a bit of a crazy rule. It was obviously going to affect at least about 800,000 people, if not considerably larger numbers of people, and a lot of disabled people got active over this, contacted their MPs, signed petitions, got out there campaigning, getting on the streets and protesting and things like that. And it did lead to a lot of pressure being applied to the government to make the changes to the bill to remove that. So that was something that we can certainly consider a success. The other side of it is that there were elements that still went through that are quite troubling, and I'll come on to those in a minute. But let's just go through this article now. So the bill passed its third reading by 336 votes to 242. So 47 Labour MPs voted against the bill at the third reading, 333 voted in favour, along with 3 independents. So that shows you that pretty much the Labour Party is not really the Labour Party anymore. So if you were in any doubt as to where the Labour Party stands, they are a centrist Liberal Party. Okay, they are not a left-wing party at all, and no left-wing party would ever do this. Labour keep trying to make out that they are still a Labour Party, both talking about working people, but the point of the Labour movement was about social responsibility and social justice and equality. That's the point of that movement. It's a very old movement. It's been around for a long time, and at the end of the day, the working people also have caring responsibilities, may also be disabled, may one day have been working all their lives, and then maybe their arm gets crushed by a press while they're at the factory and they have to give up work, or whatever it is. There's always been the need for the social security safety net, and that has been pulled at and faffed around with and broken down and reformed for years. And as I say quite often, the word reform doesn't mean make it better, it just means change the shape of something. So yeah, this certainly has seen the shape changed again, and each time that shape changes it gets worse and worse for disabled people and just people who are poor or out of work generally. And when most people voted Labour in the last election, what they were hoping to see was that this side of things improved. We've always seen the Tory party as being the nasty party, that's how they're often referred to. For the Labour Party to take this sort of approach puts them in that bracket, and it's such a big thing that anything that they do that's maybe socially responsible at the same time leaves a bitter taste in the mouth, really. And I to be honest, didn't vote for them in the last election, and I haven't voted for them for a long time, and I probably never will, because I've known the Labour Party are like this. If you did, you probably voted for them expecting something very different to what we've got. So moving on, the second reading, 49 Labour MPs voted against it. Initially that was going to be, the number was around 100, but then the amendment went through, and a lot of them switched sides on that, which to be honest is pretty poor. The PIP element isn't the only massive problem with this bill. There were no sort of major scenes on this occasion. The chamber was largely empty, which is really encouraging that the MPs are earning their money that comes out of the taxpayer. But yeah, let's worry about those disabled people sitting around their house all day. So anyway, All the government amendments to the bill, including the promise to remove Clause 5, the 4-point rule clause, were agreed. Every non-government amendment failed, except for the one relating to co-production of the Timms Review, which was withdrawn. So I would consider that a failure, but I'll come to that in a moment. As I say, the bill title was changed, and it is now just the Universal Credit Bill, because it no longer has anything to do with PIP. So if that's your concern, that is fine. You don't have to worry about that for the time being. As I say, that's changed now. It's been removed, but there will be no changes until after the Timms Review has been completed, currently expected to be in autumn 2026. Now, it's only an expectation, it's not guaranteed that's when it will happen. It may take longer for them to do it, and we remain to see what that includes. So the new Universal Credit Health element, so from April 2026, existing LCWRA claimants will not be affected by the cut or the freeze, but new claimants will be. Okay, so if you come to April, let's say you have an accident at work in January and you claim it, then you get it. If it happens in March, then you don't. So yeah, there we go. And new claimants who meet the severe conditions criteria or who are terminally ill will also be protected from the cut and the freeze. So it's really important that we note that if you are on the limited capability for work-related activity element at the moment, you should not be affected by the cut or the freeze. If you're new to it, if you're new to Universal Credit, then you will be affected. I must also add to this that what is usually the case with benefits is that if somebody phases out for some reason or cancels their claim or their claim stops and they have to put in a new claim, then it will more than likely be a new claim. So there will be a cooling off period after a claim closes where you can reactivate that claim. That does apply in some situations. Now, the government has promised as part of this bill and the green paper that people who want to attempt work but then find that it doesn't work for them will come back and be able to continue their claim. But how much of a period is given or what's happening with that is unclear at the moment. So it is something that I'm a bit concerned as to how is that going to play out in real terms. This is a bit of conjecture which I don't like going around, but yeah, something to be concerned about. And the standard rate of universal credit will rise by 4.5% above inflation by 2029-30. I've talked about inflationary rises, even slightly above inflation rises, and yeah, it's nothing really. Oh, it's risen from a terrible pittance to a slightly not quite as terrible pittance. Anyway, the severe conditions criteria. There's been no changes to the extremely hard to meet severe conditions criteria as set out in the bill. These will come into force for new claims in April 2026 and will decide whether claimants receive the higher rate of the UC health element and whether they are subject to reassessment. I suppose I should read you what Timms said. The severe conditions criteria in the bill exactly reflects how the functional tests are applied at present. It doesn't. That is in guidance. It is being moved in this bill into legislation. It does take account of Parkinson's. It does take account of MS because people need to meet the descriptors reliably, safely, repeatedly and in a reasonable time frame. And so I can give a very firm assurance to those who are concerned about how the severe conditions criteria will work for those on fluctuating condition. The word constantly here refers, as I said in my intervention earlier, to the functional criteria needing to apply at all times, not to somebody's symptoms. We consider this reassurance to be disingenuous. Benefits and Work say we will be writing more about this in the near future. Now, I have to agree with them on this point. So first of all, you have to assume, for TIMS to be correct, you have to assume that the DWP applies this correctly in all circumstances all the time. It doesn't. Secondly, the new wording is very different. So that's a big part of the problem. When it comes to an assessor who's making a decision on that, they will be using the wording in front of them. However, because of the messiness around this and the fact that probably TIMS is maybe telling porkies, the reassurance really falls on deaf ears, I think, in terms of the disabled community. But what it does mean is, because of this statement that he's made and because of the weakness in this legislation, this is an area that could be challenged in legal terms. So we shall see. The TIMS review. So the TIMS review is not part of the bill. However, it is happening next year, and it will be looking at personal independence payment and how that can be used to say if somebody's fit to work or not. No one can quite see how that would work at this stage, because PIP and work capability are two completely different things. They're really very different. They're different in concept, they're different in structure, they're different in what they're trying to achieve. So what are we talking about? Merging two things or changing one thing so it's another thing? How is that going to be? A significantly large number of people who claim PIP are in work. It is not a way of determining whether or not you can work. It's a way of determining how your disabilities affect you throughout the day, the significance of that, and the impact on your daily living, which has got nothing to do with working. And I've had to have this argument with PIP assessors on the phone, where they start saying, what jobs do you do, and things like that. So there's been hints of it coming through in terms of the way people are being trained, or what they're looking at to try and catch you out with when they, oh no, I didn't mean that, not catch you out, try and support you to claiming the benefit. Yeah, I think that's really anyway, the point of the TIMS review is that it is, and they've said this all along really, is that it's supposed to consult with disabled people, but they haven't really made much of an indication of how that's going to happen. Nothing's been set up for that yet, as far as we know. Labour MP Dr Marie Tidball sought to insert a new clause into the bill relating to co-production of the review, but she did not put forward the clause for a vote after receiving reassurances from TIMS at the end of the debate. He called the new clause a helpful checklist, let me highlight it, and that the government would closely consult with and actively involve persons with disabilities in carrying out the review. He said that he accepted the proposal in her review, and not so much to provide independent oversight as to lead and deliver it. I agree with her that the majority of group members need to be disabled people or representatives of disabled people's organisations, and that they need to be provided with adequate support, including towards their cost of travel and taking part. The outcome of the review will be central to the legislation that follows. I'll believe it when I see it. And that is expected in autumn 2026. So the bill only covers these three issues, and every other proposal, such as the abolition of the work capability assessment, the proposal to amalgamate contributory ESA and JSA into a single time-limited contributory benefit, and not paying 18 to 21-year-old PIP recipients the health element of universal credit, is not affected by last night's vote. they will all require separate legislation of their own. So the biggest evil that was in this bill and the Green Paper has been pushed away. However, many littler evils remain, and obviously here it says we do not know if it's been certified as a money bill, but very quickly afterwards we find out that yes, it has been listed as a money bill, which means that when it goes through the House of Lords, any amendments that the Lords suggest or anything there will just be ignored by the government, generally speaking, and the Lords aren't in a position to block the bill in any way, shape or form. So fantastic, a bill that had almost zero consultation with disabled people, that is only about saving money and put forward as helping people when it's doing anything but, has managed to get through with some changes along with this as well. It certainly makes me very angry. I expect it does you too. It's going to affect people negatively, there's no question of that. Whether anything changes in the future with this remains to be seen. What I would say is that no matter how negative this is, there are always solutions to problems, and there will be ways of dealing with this. There will be legal challenges to many aspects of what eventually does come into practice, and I think the story is far from over. So as grim as this may sound, as things progress in the future, we will see things changing, and certainly for the better. The important thing is not to stop fighting, and always to remember that you have a lot of value as a human being, even if that isn't coming across from the people who are in place supposedly to manage the country in a positive way for all the citizens. It certainly is the case for me and a lot of other people besides. So whatever it is that you're doing, whatever situation you're in, please don't be too disheartened by this. Be angry, that's fine. Be angry, be pissed off, you're allowed to be, but don't be disheartened by it. We have had a success in terms of the 4-point rule being kicked into the bin, and that is something to take heart from, because it means that there will be other successes in the future. I can't say that common sense prevails, but certainly legal arguments do, and pressure on the government often does make a difference. So please keep fighting and stay strong, and remember you are a really important person, and whatever you're going through at the minute, just keep going. Okay, just keep going, because the alternative is worse. This is important. Okay, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe if you found this useful. Don't forget there are links in the description below to the news websites that I mentioned, and yeah, hopefully see you all again in the future. Take care for now. Bye.